Long before the rise of the Sith, before the Jedi Order would define the galaxy's understanding of the Force, there was a war that shattered the balance of the Tython system itself. A conflict born not from ideology alone, but from resentment, ambition, and the growing divide between those who wielded the Force and those who did not. This was the Despot War. Greetings, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herders, and welcome back to the Infernal Brotherhood. Today we're exploring one of the first schisms of the Tython system in the dawn of the Jedi era, the Despot War. To understand the Despot War, we must first return tens of thousands of years into the past, to the arrival of the Tho-Yor in 36,453 before the Battle of Yavin. The Great Pyramid ships known as the Tho-Yor transported Force-sensitive pilgrims to the planet Tython. There, they formed what would become the Jedi Order, an early Force tradition devoted to balance between light and dark. But Tython was a dangerous world. Its powerful Force nexus made survival nearly impossible for those who could not touch the Force. Over the next 2 millennia, non-Force sensitive settlers gradually migrated away from Tython itself, first to its moons and later to other worlds in the system. Among these worlds was Shikakwa. Over time, the settled worlds grew prosperous, but also resentful. For 10,000 years, suspicion festered. The Jedi were seen not as protectors, but as distant, arrogant overseers who claimed moral authority through their connection to the Force. On Shikakwa, this resentment crystallized into power. Shikakwa developed an aristocracy dominated by 9 houses, ruled by crime barons whose wealth and influence rivaled that of entire planets. They governed through fear, patronage, and private armies, but they were divided. That division would end with the rise of a single charismatic leader. Her name was Hadia. Around 25,805 BBY, a Twi'lek woman named Hadia began uniting the 9 houses. Some joined her willingly, drawn in by charm, promises of wealth, and freedom from Jedi interference. Others were forced. With the help of her lieutenants, Bako, Keum-Dam, and her brutal enforcer, Sri-Lan and Gav Vanner, Hadia consolidated power and took the title of Kral, overlord of Shikakwa. Resistance was crushed. When the leader of Clan Ryo refused to join her, Hadia executed both of them and his eldest son, forcing the middle son, Volnos Ryo, to inherit the title under threat of annihilation. To the aristocracy, Hadia was a tyrant. To the common people, she was a savior. She promised safety, she promised prosperity, and most importantly, she promised independence from the Jedi. Hadia's ambitions did not stop with Shikakwa. She sought to conquer the entire Tython system. To the Jedi, this was unacceptable. Seeing her expansion as a direct threat to galactic stability, the Jedi Order chose a side, aligning themselves with the resisting aristocrats and swearing to protect those who refused Hadia's rule. At first, the conflict was restrained. A period of phony war followed, marked by scattered skirmishes in space and on the moons of Kalamar. But Hadia was prepared for more. Hadia struck without warning. Her despot army, trained and armed in secret, launched a full-scale invasion of Tython itself. The Jedi were caught off guard, but they adapted quickly. Under the leadership of Jedi Master Rajavari, who earned the title General, the Order reorganized and pushed back against the invasion. During the fighting, tragedy struck the Jedi Council. Temple Master Telat, leader of the Council and master of Akar Kesh, was killed in battle. His death elevated young Master K2 to leadership. The war had become total. The conflict spread beyond Tython. On the planet Nox, entire domed cities chose sides. Some supported the Jedi, others secretly supplied Hadia with weapons. When the Jedi uncovered 3 domes supplying arms near Greenwood Station, they issued warnings, and then acted. The domes were bombed. Thousands of civilians died. Though Greenwood Station itself survived due to its importance as the home of Pan Deep, a critical Jedi research facility, the damage left scars that would never fully heal. Hatred of the Jedi burned deeply among the people. The Despot army deployed battle droids, Deathstalker-class fighters, and Death Blaster-class ships, many of which were destroyed during the conflict, making surviving examples rare relics. The war's turning point would not come from an army, but from a single man. Dagan Loke, a Jedi Ranger, was recruited for a dangerous mission. With the help of Volnos Ryo, who sought vengeance for his murdered family, Loke infiltrated the Despot army, posing as a disgraced Jedi seeking purpose. He rose quickly, so quickly in fact that he caught the attention of Hadia herself. The two became lovers, and in doing so, Loke began to lose sight of his mission. The war reached its bloodiest moment during the siege of the Jedi Temple of Kalath. Casualties were catastrophic. Among the dead were the parents of a young Force-sensitive child, Shay Koda, whose future would be shaped by the war's horrors. At Kalath, Volnos Ryo confronted Loke, reminding him why he had come. Loke entered Hadia's tent and raised his blade. He hesitated. Assassination was forbidden by the Jedi, and his feelings for Hadia stayed his hand. But when Hadia attacked him, Dagan Loke struck her down. He fought his way out of the camp, leaving one survivor to carry the tale. Hadia's death shattered the Despot army. Her generals turned on one another. Command collapsed. The Jedi crushed the remaining forces and emerged victorious. The Despot War was over. The cost was staggering. 100,000 Jedi dead, over 1 million Despot army casualties. Thousands more injured. In the aftermath, the Jedi dismantled surviving Despot warships, but peace did not follow. Greenwood Station retaliated, sanctioning the assassination of 1 Jedi for every 100 civilians killed. These murders continued for years. Hadia's inner circle was exiled. A weak Krall was installed. The 9 houses resumed their infighting. Resentment toward the Jedi endured. For ending the war, Dagan Loke was promoted to Master, but victory bred arrogance. In 25,800 BBY, Loke and Hawk Ryu descended into the chasm of Tython, a place that drove many Jedi mad. They received a vision, an army of dark warriors, blades of fire, a future of endless war. Hawk denied it. Dagan Loke did not. Loke emerged broken, his mind consumed by what he had seen. The Despot War was more than a battle for control. It was the first great fracture between the Jedi and the people they once protected, a warning that power, even when guided by the Force, could inspire fear as easily as hope, and its echoes would shape the destiny of the Jedi and the galaxy for millennia to come. If you enjoyed diving into this concentrated lore, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the video. And as always, your support through Patreon or channel memberships helps the Infernal Brotherhood continue exploring the deep history of the Star Wars Legends universe. Until we convene again, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herders, may the Force be with you.